Welcome to the Informer Web Reporting Overview. My name is Randy Wessels and I am the Programming and Support Manager for the Book Division at the Media Services Group. The purpose of this video is to show some of the capabilities of Informer when coupled with data from the Elan application. Being in the Book Division of the company, the reports that I will be showing today will be related to Elan Book. All of the features of Informer will be usable on all of the modules. Informer is a product made by a company called Intrinsic. Intrinsic has been in business since 1984, and there are over 1,000 companies currently using their products. Media Services has entered into a partnership with them to deliver the Informer product to all our clients upgrading to the latest version of Elan. Although we're still in the design phase, once the product has been officially released, we plan on having most of the reports in Elan available in Informer. There will be multiple ways to access these reports, including directly from inside of Elan, as a favorite in your browser, or from our Elan.web product. Today I will be accessing Informer from a link in my browser. I am using Google's Chrome, but it does work with the latest versions of all major browsers. The login credentials that we'll use are the same ones that are used for accessing Elan. After a successful login, the system takes you to the reporting dashboard. The bulk of the dashboard is devoted to the reports listing. This shows you all the reports that your security allows you to access. Both MSG reports as well as user-created reports will show up in this list. Each report gives you a report title, description, who created it, and when you last executed it. You have the ability to sort the columns by clicking a column header, and you can flag any report as a favorite. Each report has the option of being associated with one or more tags. Tags allow you to segment the reports into groups. If you select a group of reports, on the top right you have the ability to do bulk operations, such as adding or removing from favorites, adding or removing tags, or deleting reports. Since we plan on having hundreds of reports available, it's important to be able to find the report you want to execute. At the top of the screen you have a search option. As you type into the search box, the list of reports will be filtered using your search criteria. At the bottom of the page, we have paging controls. Any place Informer displays a list of records will have these controls for browsing the data. On the left side of the screen, we have the filtering panel. There are three sections to this panel. Each allows you to filter the list of reports shown in the report listing. The first is filtering by set. You can choose to view all sets or just reports that you've marked as favorites. The second is filtering by data source. Most clients will only have one data source. Finally, we have the filtering by tags. Choosing a specific tag will only display reports that are associated with that tag. It is important to understand how the navigation works in Informer. At the top right of the screen, you can see there are two large tabs, Reports and Mappings. Most of our clients will only see the Reporting tab. The Mapping tab is used by MSG as well as clients that elect to purchase an enhanced version of Informer that will let you run reports from databases other than Elan. At the top left of the screen we have what is called breadcrumbs. This tells you exactly where you are in the hierarchy and allows you to return to the reporting dashboard or a prior screen. Below the breadcrumbs there are two tabs, Reports and Archives. Reports are where the bulk of the work will be done, but archives are an exciting part of the system. They allow you to create a snapshot of your data at a certain point in time. Later you can execute that same report and still have the ability to use many of the reporting features such as sorting, grouping, and drilling in and out of data. To get to the details of a report, you can click on the Details link. You are now taken to a screen that is specific to the report that you have selected. Depending on your security setup, you have several buttons available to you on the right side of the screen. The most important ones are the Delete and Copy buttons. We also have 4 new tabs. We are currently on the Report Templates tab where we can see the details of the report setup. On the Overview panel, we can see each of the options that make up the report. By clicking one of the links, you are taken to a screen where you can see the details and make changes. At the bottom of the screen we can see a formatting sample of the report. The sample doesn't show any data, but it does show all the columns and their formatting. The next tab to look at is the Data tab. Now you can also get to this tab by clicking the Launch button from the reporting dashboard. When clicking the tab, if there were no reporting filters, we would have immediately been presented with the report results. Since this particular report has two optional filters, I can choose to populate them or not, and then click the Launch Report button. At the bottom of the screen, you can see that the report has returned 768 records over 32 pages. From here we can do several things. First, we can sort the data by clicking on a column header. Clicking the same header again will toggle between an ascending or descending sort. You can hold down the Control key and do a multi-level sort. Next, we can reorder the columns just by clicking the header and dragging it to a new location. This does not permanently change the report, only the current results. You can also group the data by any column by dragging the column heading to the box that says Drag Columns here to group. This will allow you to look at the data in any of those groups. Each group of data is collapsed and can be expanded using the plus sign. Within the group, you can sort, and you can use paging controls. You can also use aggregate functions. By clicking the Totals checkbox, Informa creates a new row of data after the group that will total each of the numeric columns. On the top right of the screen, we have buttons for exporting and archiving. Clicking Export Results brings up a window. This window can be moved around by clicking the top portion and holding the button while you move the mouse. A variety of export formats are supported. The most common format is CSV, which opens Excel. Another useful one is Adobe PDF. When selecting the PDF option, you're prompted with a few different options such as font sizes, orientation, and margins. One very interesting option is the page break in groups. Since my report is already grouped and this option is selected, the PDF is created with a summary page of data from all the groups, and each group gets an entry in the Bookmarks section. Clicking on a bookmark will immediately take me to that part of the report. The last format that I want to talk about is Live Excel. This allows you to export the query to extract the data to Excel. You can then open the spreadsheet completely independent of Informa, and you'll be looking at the most current version of the data from Elan. The Excel document is no longer static and can be emailed to anyone else that has network access to the Elan server or placed on a network share. Clicking on the Archiving button will allow the system to take a snapshot of the data as it is now for reporting on that data later on. Also available on the Data tab is the Analytics functionality. This is used to look at groupings of data. On the left side of the screen, we can select which fields to display, as well as what numeric or date fields we want to aggregate. Any field with only one checkbox next to it is a text field that when selected, the records will appear on the left side of the screen. You can select multiple text fields and the system will display records for each unique combination. For example, if I click Major Classification Description, I get 23 records. If I then click Minor Classification, I will get 168 records in total. Now if I want to get a count of how many records are in each of these 23 major classifications, I can click the Count checkbox, which will exist regardless of the fields available on the report. Any of the numeric and date columns on the report will have multiple checkboxes. The first checkbox allows grouping just like any other text field. For date columns, we can also select some aggregate functions such as minimum and maximum. For numeric columns, in addition to minimum and maximum, we also get total and average. Much of the same functionality that exists in the Report Results tab also exists here. I can sort by any column, I can reorder columns, and I can export the data to any of the regular formats, including Live Excel. Finally, if you want to drill down to see the detail of the data you're looking at, you can just double-click one of the rows. It will bring you back to the report results screen, and the data will be filtered to show you just the row you clicked on from the Analytics tab. Next, we have the Charting tab. We can select any one column from the report, and that will determine the x-axis. The y-axis is determined by the value that you select in the drop-down at the bottom left of the screen. Although it defaults to record count, you can select any of the 4 aggregate functions for any of the numeric fields. You can also alter the number of columns and which ones are displayed by using the Show dropdown and the Values entry field. Although the columns are labeled with a sequential number starting at 0, you can choose to show field names as labels instead. The charting starts off in a vertical bar chart, but that can be changed to a pie chart or a line chart. Each chart has some interactivity as well when you hover over the data being displayed. Finally, you can use the Capture Image button to bring up a window containing just the chart, which you can save. Although each report can be copied or changed to display different fields, sorts, and groups, there might be times where a user might want to make changes to a report that's specific to them. The User Settings tab allows them to do just that. Any changes that are made to a report on this tab only apply to the user that is making the changes. All other users will see either the base report or their customized version if they choose to do so. This tab allows the user to add or remove columns in the report, as well as customize the look of those columns. They can even add their own calculated fields. Sorting can be customized, and multiple levels of sorting are supported. The grouping defaults with aggregate functions can be set up here as well. Next, we have the Schedules tab. Any report in the system can be scheduled to run at a preset time and frequency. To create a new schedule, you just click on the New Schedule button on the right of the screen. You can give the schedule a description, set the start date and an optional end date, and the time that you want the report to be generated. Reoccurrence can be set to control the frequency the report will be run. If the report have parameters, you can enter them on the Report Parameters tab. It is even possible to use special parameters, such as the word today, in the date fields. That way the system would always pass in the current date. The Archive tab allows you to create an archive from the results. Remembering from earlier, the Archive function allows you to take a snapshot of the current data and report on that static data at a later time. From the Email tab, the system will allow you to send the report to multiple recipients separated by a comma. Although the subject of the email defaults in as the same name as the report, you can customize it as you like. The email text field is freeform. However, you also have the ability to add special keywords, like the date the report was run. You can choose the format of the data in the email. Each format allows you to choose a file name of the attachment, as well as a few additional format-specific options. Finally, we have the Export tab. This is useful for sending the data to a specific location, such as a path on your network. Again, you have the same format options as in the Email tab. Let's go back to the home page using the breadcrumbs. Now we're going to look at archives. Clicking on the Archive tab gives us a list of all the archives that have been created. Just like the reporting dashboard, we have many of the same filtering options available. To report on an archive, just click on the Name link. Here we have the exact same features as in the Normal Results tab. We can sort, we can reorder columns, we can use the grouping function, and even export the data to any of our regular formats. The only format that is not available is Live Excel, since we are looking at static data from when the archive was created. In addition, we have our Analytics and Charting tabs with all the same features available. Backing out to the home page again, let's create a report from scratch. We start by clicking on the New Report button on the right side of the screen. Let's give it a name. For data source, most clients will only have one option, and that's their Unidata database. Once you have chosen a data source, you have to use a mapping. Although Elan is a relational database, it's quite probable that a report you create will need to pull data from multiple tables, so you do need to choose a starting point. Since I'm going to create a product report, I'm going to start with a product table. You can give it any description that you want. Bear in mind that the description is searchable from the reporting dashboard. You can also give the report any number of new or existing tags that you want. Tags are a great way of categorizing your reports. If you start typing the name of the tag, it will filter from the list of tags available. Clicking the Next button will take you out of the wizard and present you with a list of reporting options. Let's start with adding columns to the report. The link to the right of the word column says none since we haven't defined any yet. Clicking that link will take you to the Edit Columns screen. The Add Fields button will let you add any field from the database to the report. A window opens up and I'm presented with a list of 9 pages of columns. The first field that I want to add is Product ID, so I'm going to search for it by typing in the search field. If I double-click the field I want, it will place it on the report. Next, I want an ISBN. This time I'm going to drag and drop the field on the report. Let's add both ISBN 10 and 13. Closing the Add Field window, I can see that as I added the columns to the report, I get 5 rows of sample data. If you want to remove a column, just drag the column to the row that says Drop Column to remove. Let's add a few more columns. Let's add Title and Publication Date. Now we'll reorder the columns by dragging the headers. You can also customize any column. Just click on the column name and it is displayed in the column editor below. We're going to shorten up the header for publication date. We can also change the format and make it bold. Clicking the Apply button will let us see the results of our changes. Next, I want to add a few more fields. I'm creating a product report, but I'm interested in seeing how many products I have on hand. Inventory data is not stored in a product file, but as part of the process where MSG mapped the data into Informer, we defined a link between the product and the inventory tables. On the left side of our Add Fields window, we can see the table we are pulling data from, the Products view. If we click the plus sign, we can see the links to other tables. Clicking on the Inventory link, we can see a list of inventory fields that are linked to the product table. Double-clicking the Quantity on Hand field will add this field to the report. Let's customize this column as well. Since this is a numeric column, we have a few additional options that we did not have with the date column. Let's go ahead and tell it to use the thousands separator. Next, I want to demonstrate a calculated field. Perhaps I want to know the total of the quantity that I have on hand plus the quantity that I have on order. We'll go ahead and add the On Order field. Now let's click on Add Calculations. We get a window that wants us to choose between template and script fields. Templates are very powerful and can be used to add images to your report or even HTML links. It is possible to have a report that contains a country name and make a link to a Wikipedia page on that country that is dynamically generated. For a simple addition field, we're going to choose the script option. Let's give the field a name. Now I'm going to drag the first field onto my new script column window. Let's add a plus sign since we want to add the order quantity, and then drag the On Order field to that window. We'll go ahead and click Add Calculation and close. We can see that our new field is there and it's correctly adding the 2 columns. Now maybe we don't want to see the On Order quantity field on the report, but we needed it to derive the calculated field. We can just click on the column header, choose Hidden, and then click Apply. You can still see the column as it shows up in our sample data list, but it's grayed out and will not appear when the user actually executes the report. Clicking the Save and Close will get us back to the report template screen, where we can further customize this report. Adding default sorts is very simple. Clicking the None link next to the sorts will get us to the sort screen. Just choose the columns that we want to sort by and then select ascending or descending. Grouping is just as easy. You choose the field you want to group by, click a sort, and then choose any aggregate functions you want to perform. Grouping and sorting are just defaults that are applied when a user runs the report. They will still be able to resort or regroup as they like to. They can also override this using the User Settings tab. Informer has quite a few options available for filtering data. Although very complex filters can be created by nesting conditions with ands and ors, we will just do a simple filter in this overview. Clicking the Simple Filter button will bring up a single filter condition. First, you choose the field you want to filter on by selecting a property. You're not limited by just fields on the report. You can choose any field in the table that the report uses, as well as any table that it's linked to. In this case, we'll go ahead and choose Major Classification. Next, we choose a condition. Because the major classification is a text field, we get options such as begins with or ends with. If we had chosen a numeric field, the options change to reflect that. We'll use begins with for this example. Next, we choose what we are comparing that field to. If we selected literal, we are essentially hard-coding the report with a specific value. If we select prompt, the user is prompted for major classification at the time the report is executed. Finally, we can choose property to compare major classification to a different field either on the report table or any table linked to it. For our example, let's make a prompt. Now we can make a second filter by just clicking Simple Condition again. The system will default to separating the filters by an AND, meaning that for a record to appear on the report, both filter conditions must be met. It's possible to change that to an OR, as well as nest several ANDs and ORs in the same list of filters. For the second filter, we only want to include records that have a quantity on hand greater than 0. We now have the basics of our report, so we can go ahead and execute the report by clicking on the Data tab. Since we created a filter, we either need to populate the filter, or because we chose to make it an optional filter, we can leave it blank and click Launch Report. We have all of the same options available in our newly created report: sorting, grouping, filtering, exporting. This concludes the overview of the Informer Web Reporting product. To exit the application, just click the Sign Out link in the top right-hand corner of the screen.